They brought me to the dying cub at midnight, not as a healer, not as a comfort, but as a last resort. "Sing," the Alpha King commanded, voice raw and desperate. I looked at the small child in the bed. Prince David, only 4 years old, dying, and the healers had done all they could, but he continued to decline. His breathing was shallow, erratic. "I am only an artist," I said quietly. "Please." The king's eyes were swollen and red. "The legend says an Omega's song can call back the dying. I have tried everything else. A legend." He was asking me to perform a miracle based on a legend, for a dying child, and I had a voice. So I sang, and the entire palace went silent. Days earlier, Sarah, an Omega, 24 years old, was a servant in the royal palace. She cleans floors, polishes silver, carries laundry, invisible work, invisible life. But one secret she hides from the public is her ability to sing. Never where anyone can hear, but late at night in the servant quarters, she sings herself to sleep. Old songs, lullabies her mother taught before she died, songs that made the ache of loneliness bearable. She did not know anyone could hear her until Prince David found her. It was 3 weeks ago. I was in the linen closet, folding sheets, singing softly. A small voice interrupted. "That is pretty." I spun around. Prince David stood in the doorway, small for 4, dark curls, bright eyes. I dropped into a curtsy. "Your Highness, forgive me. I did not mean to disturb. You did not disturb. I was walking past. I heard you." He stepped closer. "Will you sing more?" "I should not. I am working." "Please, just a little." He looked so hopeful. So I sang a lullaby about stars and sleep. He listened and smiled. My mother used to sing to me before she died. My heart broke. The queen had died 2 years ago. Birthing complications. The king had raised David alone. "I am sorry, Your Highness. Will you sing for me again tomorrow?" I should have said no, but he looked so small, so lonely. "Yes," I said. "Tomorrow." He came every day after that, always to the linen closet, always asking for songs. I sang him lullabies, folk songs, ballads about heroes and dragons. He would sit on the floor, listening, sometimes humming along. "You have the most beautiful voice," he said one day. "Thank you, Your Highness." "David," he corrected. "When it is just us, call me David. I should not, please. Everyone calls me Your Highness or Prince and talks at me. No one just talks to me." The loneliness in his voice was so familiar. "All right, David." He beamed. I knew it was dangerous, a servant befriending the prince, but he reminded me so much of myself, alone and aching for connection. So I kept singing. Then the fever started suddenly. One day David was bright and laughing. The next he collapsed during sword practice. The healers were summoned. Every physician in the kingdom. They bled him, gave him tinctures, prayed. Nothing worked. The fever climbed and climbed. By the 3rd day he was delirious. By the 5th he stopped waking. I heard the whispers in the servant halls. "The prince is dying. The king has not left his side. They say he screams for the queen, for his mother." My heart shattered. That small boy who loved my songs is dying. I wanted to see him, to sing for him one last time. But I was a servant. I had no access to the royal chambers, so I did the only thing I could. I went to the chapel and I prayed. On the 7th day they came for me. 2 guards, faces grim. "You are." "Sarah, the Omega who sings." Fear shot through me. "Yes. The king has summoned. You." "What? Why?" "Come now." They led me through corridors I'd only cleaned, never walked as anything but invisible to the royal wing to David's chambers. The king stood by the bed. He looked destroyed, eyes red, face haggard, clothes rumpled, a man watching his son die. "You are the one," he said, with the voice. "The one my son spoke of. The Omega who sings." "Yes, Your Majesty. He asked for you in his fever, called your name." Tears burned my eyes. The king stepped aside. "Let me see the bed." David lay there, small, pale, barely breathing. The healers say he has hours, maybe minutes. The king's voice cracked. There is nothing more they can do. He looked at me, desperate. There is a legend, an old story that an Omega's song can call the dying back from the edge. Your Majesty, I am not the legend. I know it is a legend, superstition, but I have tried everything else. He grabbed my shoulders. Please sing for him if there is even a chance. I looked at the small boy who had sat on the floor of a linen closet who had smiled when I sang. Yes, I said. I will sing. The king called everyone away. Healers, advisors, guards. Leave us, he commanded. All of you. They filed out silently. The king remained standing by the door. I sat beside the bed, took David's small hand. It was burning hot, limp. David, I whispered. It is me, Sarah. Can you hear me? No response. I closed my eyes and I began to sing. The lullaby his mother used to sing, the one he told me about. I did not know the words, so I made them up. Sang about a small prince, brave and kind, lost in darkness, looking for the light. Sang about a voice calling him home, a hand reaching through the shadows. My voice filled the room, soft at first, then stronger. I poured everything into it. All of my loneliness, every song I had sung to comfort myself, every ounce of love I had for this small boy who had been my friend. The palace went silent. Later, I would learn that everyone stopped. Guards in corridors, servants in kitchens, nobles in chambers. The entire palace held its breath listening. But in that moment, I knew none of this. I only knew David's hand in mine and the song pouring from my soul. I do not know how long I sang, minutes, maybe hours. The song became a prayer, a plea. Come back. Come back. If you enjoy this story, click subscribe so you'll receive notifications when a new audio from Alpha Love Stories Original gets uploaded. Come back and then a squeeze, faint, almost imperceptible. David's hand squeezed mine. I gasped. I kept singing. Another squeeze, stronger. His breathing changed, deeper, more steady. Then his eyes opened. Fever bright but aware. Sarah, he whispered. I could not speak, could only nod. Tears streamed down my face. You came, he said, smiling weak. You sang. Behind me, I heard a sound, the king dropping to his knees, sobbing. The healers rushed back in, checked his pulse, his breathing, his fever. It is breaking, one said, stunned. The fever is breaking. Impossible, another breathed. He was minutes from death. Not impossible, the king said, voice thick with tears. A miracle. He looked at me, his eyes full of something I could not name. You saved him. I only sang. You called him back when nothing else could. David tugged my hand. Do not leave, he said, small voice, scared. Please stay. I looked at the king, uncertain. Stay, he said, for as long as he needs you. So I stayed through the night, singing softly whenever David stirred. The fever broke completely by dawn, and David slept peacefully, breathing steady and alive. The days after the king did not let me return to the servants' quarters. You will stay in the royal wing, he said near David. Your Majesty, I am a servant. You are the woman who saved my son. You are whatever I say you are. There was no arguing with that. I was given chambers, fine clothes, anything I needed, but what David needed most was my voice. I sang for him every night. Lullabies, stories, songs his mother used to sing. He recovered slowly, gaining strength day by day. And the king, King Jacob, watched, always there, always listening. One evening after David fell asleep, Jacob spoke. I need to know. How did you do it? I do not know, Your Majesty. I just sang. The legend says an Omega's song can call back the dying, but only if, he stopped. If what? If the bond is pure, if the love is true. He looked at me, eyes intense. You love him. My son. Yes, I said simply. He is. He was my friend, the only one I had. His expression shifted, softened. He spoke of you before the fever, called you his secret friend who sang. I hope that was acceptable, Your Majesty. I never meant to overstep. You gave him something I could not. Joy. Connection. He sat heavily in a chair. Since his mother died, he has been so alone. I tried, but I am not good at softness. You love him. I said, that is enough. Is it? When I nearly lost him because I did not see what he needed. You saw when it mattered. You brought me to him. He looked at me for a long moment. Stay, he said. Not just for him. Stay as part of this family. Your Majesty, David needs you, and I think I do too. In the weeks that followed, I became part of their lives. Not as a servant, not quite his family, something in between. I sang for David every night, told him stories, taught him songs. He bloomed, laughing, playing, alive, and Jacob started joining us. At first, just to listen, then to ask questions, to talk. He told me about his late wife, the Queen, how she had sung too, how David got his love of music from her. I have not heard singing in this palace since she died, he said one evening. Why not? Because it hurt too much, reminded me of what I lost. He looked at me. But when you sing, it does not hurt. It heals. I am glad, I said softly. Sarah, I need to tell you something. My heart quickened. I am falling in love with you. The words hung in the air. You what? I know I am a king. You were a servant. This is impossible in every way. He stood, began pacing. But I cannot stop it, cannot ignore it. You saved my son. You brought joy back into our lives, and somewhere along the way you became essential. I could not speak. I am not asking for anything, he continued. I just needed you to know that you are everything. I found my voice. I love you too, I whispered. He froze, turned. You do? I have been falling since you knelt beside me in David's room, since you trusted me to save him, since you looked at me like I mattered. He crossed me, cupped my face. You do matter more than anything. He kissed me then, gentle, reverent, perfect. 1 year later, we married quietly. No grand ceremony, just vows in the chapel. David as witness. I became queen, the Omega, who had been a servant, who had sung a dying boy back to life. The court whispered. Some approved, others did not. I did not care because every night I sang for David, for Jacob, for the palace that had once been silent. Music returned to the halls. Laughter, joy. One evening, as I put David to bed, he asked, Do you remember when I was sick? I remember, I said softly. I was so far away, lost in the dark. But I heard you singing. Did you? Yes, and I followed your voice home. Tears filled my eyes. I am glad you did, sweet boy. Mother, he said, testing the word. We had talked about this, what he would call me. Yes, David. Will you always sing for me? I kissed his forehead. Always. For as long as you want. Forever. Then I sang him to sleep, then found Jacob in our chambers. He pulled me close. I heard you singing to him. Did it bother you? No. It reminded me why I love you. Why? Because you sing not for crowds or glory. You sing for the people you love. To heal, to comfort, to call them home. I rested my head against his chest. I was a servant, I said. Hidden, invisible. I never imagined this. You were never invisible, he said. Not to David, not to me. We just had to learn to listen. And as I stood there in the arms of the man I loved, in the palace that had become home, I thought about that midnight. When they brought me to a dying child, when I sang with everything I had, when the palace went silent and a miracle happened, not because of magic, but because of love. They ordered the Omega to sing for the dying cub, a last resort, a desperate hope. She sang with everything she had, and the entire palace went silent, listening to the miracle of love calling a lost soul home. Sometimes the most powerful magic is simply being seen, heard, and loved. If you enjoy this story, click subscribe so you'll receive notifications when a new audio from Alpha Love Stories Original gets uploaded.